A child here can't get seriously ill because the nearest surgical hospital is 6 days away by boat, and boats don't come on emergency calls. Out there, one ship fights through fog and silence. On board, medicine that can't be made here, the parts for its generator. A year's worth of survival. Miss that delivery, and you wait. Not days, not weeks, sometimes months. This is Tristan da Cunha, a village floating in the ocean's slow heartbeat. When storms close in, radios fall quiet. Every sound becomes survival. The hum of a generator, the clang of rusted steel, the whisper of wind through basalt. Because here, if a single shipment fails, the island must outlast the ocean itself. How long could you last here? If every mistake cost you a month of waiting? On most maps, Tristan da Cunha is a dot so small, you'd miss it unless you were already looking for it. A single volcanic cone rises from 3 million square miles of empty sea. The cliffs look carved by something ancient and patient. Basalt walls climbing straight from the waves, streaked with seabird nests and salt. There's no safe harbor, no airstrip, no other islands in sight. Just this, a circle of land barely larger than Manhattan, surrounded by nothing. When sailors first saw it in 1506, they didn't dare attempt a landing. The surf hit the rocks like a heartbeat you could hear from the deck. For centuries, maps labeled it simply, unapproachable island. Yet somehow people came. The first permanent settlers arrived in 1816, British soldiers who decided not to leave. A few sailors stayed behind. A few women from St. Helena joined them. That's how the world's most remote community began. 6 families, 1 volcano, and the Atlantic on every side. Since then, every generation has built its life against the wind. Houses anchored with stone, boats carved by hand, fields scraped from ash and moss. And those satellites can now map every ripple of its shore. Tristan still feels like it belongs to an older Earth, a place that never learned what nearby means. But geography is only half the story. The real test begins when that ship doesn't come. Out here, survival isn't an adventure, it's a maintenance schedule. The smell of diesel clings to every tool shed. Salt corrodes metal overnight. Rust is the island's second currency. Every house keeps its own calendar of repairs. Roofs braced against salt, engines checked for rust. The island's generator tended like a living thing. Because when something breaks here, it stays broken until the next ship comes. They melt fishing line into stitches for torn boots. Forge rusted ship metal into hinges. A broken steering cable becomes fence wire. Plastic drums become roofing panels. Every scrap is sacred. A few years back, when the island's water pump failed, it took a machinist and a welder 2 weeks to forge replacement seals from salvaged diesel drums. Families carried water in buckets from springs until the hum returned. Ships are regularly delayed for weeks when the Atlantic turns violent. When the clouds lift and the radio hisses with static, the island watches the horizon for a shape that doesn't come. Children stop asking when the ship will come. Gardens yield less each week. The radio operator marks days on a wall calendar with red ink. Each XA day, farther from certainty. Fuel is rationed. Flour runs low. Medicine is guarded. Time is measured not in hours, but in candles burned. The hospital's pharmacist knows exactly how many doses of each antibiotic remain. She locks the supply room at night and carries the only key. Every solution relies on the ingenuity of a few: the machinist, the welder, the fisherman who knows which line holds under a storm. Their expertise is the difference between light and dark. And yet, it's not the machines that test them. They prove they can outlast the silence and outweat the broken machine. But self-reliance has a limit, and that limit is a volcano that is still very much alive. Out here, the land rises like a heartbeat you can see. Queen Mary's Peak dominates the island. Its slopes green, its summit often lost in fog. The volcano sleeps, but it remembers. Sulfur smells linger after rain. Winds whip around basalt ridges. And even when the slopes are quiet, the island listens, always listening. Life persists in terraces and gardens, in homes braced against wind, in villagers moving with careful awareness of the ground beneath them. In October 1961, the volcano woke. Tremors shook the settlement for weeks. Fissures opened along the northern shore. Lava began oozing toward homes, and the entire population, 264 people, boarded ships in the middle of the night, leaving behind everything they couldn't carry. They were taken to England, to Southampton, to neighborhoods where no one knew their names, where traffic never stopped, where the silence they had lived with was replaced by constant noise. For 2 years, they tried to adapt. Children attended schools where they were teased for their accents. Adults worked factory jobs where colleagues couldn't place Tristan on a map. Gardens in London couldn't survive the concrete. Faces were strangers, streets were chaotic, belonging was a memory. And yet, the island called them back. In 1963, most returned, not because the volcano had gone dormant, but because anonymity felt more dangerous than living on an active volcano. On Tristan, everyone knew your story. In London, you were invisible. They chose danger with belonging over safety with anonymity. Today, the ground is calm, the slope's green, but living on the edge of fire leaves marks unseen. Some cracks are in the earth, others in the mind. They came back knowing it could erupt again. The question isn't why they returned. It's what isolation does to your brain that makes danger feel like safety. Out here, silence has a weight. It presses against walls, threads through conversations, and fills the spaces between heartbeats. The mind learns to compartmentalize, to store fear in a corner, and keep daily tasks moving. Psychologists call it compartmentalization of conflict, a skill Tristaners have honed for decades. Not everyone adapts. Some crack under the silence. Former residents describe hearing whispers from the sea, hallucinations born of sensory deprivation, shadows that seemed to move when no one was near. Even small disruptions, an unlit lamp, a missupply, can ripple through the psyche, testing patience and perception. For those who endure, patterns become lifelines. Daily rituals, the hum of the generator, the scraping of metal, the cadence of fetching water, anchor them. Every repaired hinge, every stitched boot, every bucket carried from the spring is not just survival. It's a practice in mental resilience. Isolation sharpens social bonds in ways outsiders rarely see. Gossip is a tool of governance, a subtle way to enforce norms. Friends know exactly where you've been, what you've done, how you feel, and you know theirs. Privacy is a currency everyone pays, willingly or not. Yet even in this intense awareness, the internet whispers promises of the wider world. Young people scroll, compare, imagine. For them, isolation is no longer just physical. It's a contrast. The island's raw immediacy versus global possibility. The mind stretches toward both, tethered to the here while yearning for the there. And still, the human psyche finds balance. Adaptation becomes second nature. Routine is the antidote to chaos. Compartmentalization is survival, not just of body, but of mind. Because even the strongest mind has limits. And beyond those limits, even silence can become dangerous. To live here is to commit, not just to the island, but to every rule, every expectation, every gaze. Permanence is a choice. Each resident knows that a misstep, ignoring a repair, breaking a local custom, or angering a neighbor, ripples farther than it would anywhere else. Gossip is the ultimate survival tool. It's how the village enforces order, a social tax on privacy that everyone must pay. Secrets are rare. Actions are noted. Choices are scrutinized. Even small lapses, forgotten chores, a heated word, are cataloged in collective memory. For a young couple debating whether to leave, permanence is more than a geographic fact. It's an invisible ledger. Every mistake costs time, attention, and trust. Families whisper about them in the market. Children pass on judgments learned at home. The world beyond the waves exists, yes, but here, society is sharper, and anonymity is impossible. Yet, the rules are not cruel, they are survival. Knowing who can fix a generator, who remembers the last storm, who knows the safest path across the cliffs, that knowledge is a shield. And it's passed down like a ritual, generation to generation. Technology has shifted the balance. Satellite internet arrived in 2021. Slow, expensive, but real. The young see the world in high definition. Distant cities, endless streets, possibilities their parents never imagined. Suddenly, the rules feel heavier, the walls smaller, and the choice to stay more conscious. But even with this connection, the core tension remains. The island demands commitment. Those who remain accept that belonging has a cost. And that cost is measured not in dollars or days, but in attention, in awareness, in the invisible ledger of human judgment. And so, permanence is both gift and weight. It binds you, protects you, teaches you, and it asks, can you endure knowing every action echoes long after you thought the world would forget? In 2021, satellite internet arrived, slow, expensive, but finally real. For the first time, the youth of Tristan could see the world beyond the horizon in high definition. A 16-year-old scrolls through endless city streets, neon lights, crowded cafes. A classmate shows photos of a concert in Cape Town. Someone else shares a video of snow falling on a distant mountain, something they'll never touch. Connection is immediate. Comparison is inevitable. Desire flickers like the glow of the laptop screen. But the reality is unchanged. The cliffs still rise sharply from the sea. The generator still hums under careful watch. The fields still demand hands and sweat. Technology shows what's out there, but doesn't soften the isolation, doesn't make the waves less relentless, doesn't carry a lost shipment to shore. Parents watch with measured worry. They remember the lessons of silence and self-reliance. They understand that seeing the world doesn't mean leaving it. Yet the temptation is alive. Every image, every story, every fleeting glimpse of other lives pulls at the edges of permanence. Here, being connected doesn't erase distance. It sharpens it. The island is smaller in pixels, larger in reality. Global networks link Tristan to continents, but leave hearts tethered to the cliffs, the generator, the sea, the neighbors who know every story. And so, the paradox persists. You can reach the world, and yet remain entirely alone. The island holds a mirror, one that doesn't reflect your face, but your choices, your fears, your resilience. Here, every habit is magnified. Every decision echoes. A missed repair becomes weeks of darkness. A postponed task becomes months of waiting. Life is stripped to its essentials. The trivial fades. What matters is clear. The youth who scroll through screens, the elders who tend generators, the families carrying water in buckets, they all confront the same reflection. Their surroundings force clarity. Who you are, how you endure, what you value. Tristan da Cunha is a village floating at the edge of the world. It is quiet, fierce, unforgiving, and yet it is alive. On Tristan da Cunha, the world is a rumor. Perhaps for the rest of us, silence has become the same. And in that silence, we recognize ourselves. Not in noise, not in crowds, not in screens, but in the space between, in the choices we make when nothing distracts us, and when survival and belonging demand all we have.